Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's December 7th. Today we celebrate the botanist who saved the Lewis and Clark specimen sheets. We'll also learn about the successful botanist and garden designer who introduced the navel orange. We'll recognize the Conservatory stocked by the World's Fair, and we'll hear a charming verse about the mistletoe by a poet entomologist. And we grow that garden library today with a book featuring 15 incredible private gardens in North America. And then we'll wrap things up with the American writer who wrote about the natural world with simplicity and honesty. But first, let me encourage you to head on over to thedailygardener.org. That's the website for the show. And once you're there, you'll see a sign up for the free Friday newsletter, which features a personal update from me, garden-related items and reminders for your calendar, the Grow That Garden Library featured books for the week. They'll be all there in a nice little list for you. And I also share gardener gift ideas, garden-inspired recipes, and exclusive updates regarding the show. Plus, each week, one lucky subscriber wins a book from the Grow That Garden Library bookshelf. So there you go. In today's curated news, I found an article for you from Q. It was written by Michael F. Fay, and the title caught my attention because it says, "Is mistletoe more than just an excuse for a kiss?" Well, the answer, of course, is yes, but you'll have to read the article for yourself to find out why. And if you'd like to check it out for yourself, you can do so very easily in the free Facebook group for the show. It's called the Daily Gardener Community. That's where I post all of my curated news articles and original blog posts, so you never have to track these things down. The next time you're on Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of the American botanist and professor Edward Tuckerman, who was born on this day, December 7th, in 1817. A specialist of lichens and other alpine plants, Edward helped found the Natural History Society of Boston. As a professor at Amherst College, Edward spent his spare time botanizing in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And today, Tuckerman Ravine is named in honor of Edward Tuckerman. America owes a debt of gratitude to Edward for rescuing some of the Lewis and Clark specimens at an auction. It turns out that after the Lewis and Clark expedition, a botanist named Frederick Persh was hired by Meriwether Lewis to process the plants from their trip. After butting heads with his boss, Benjamin Smith Barton, and Meriwether's apparent suicide, Frederick Persh took the Lewis and Clark specimens and went to England. Once in England, Persh reached out to two botanists, Sir James Edward Smith and Almer Lambert. Persh wanted to put together the flora of North America, and he needed their help to get the job done. Ultimately, Almer became his botanical fairy godfather. Almer had a substantial personal botanical library, herbarium, and funding. Almer also forced Persh to be productive. Frederick Persh was kind of a rough and tough guy. He was an alcoholic. Almer made a space for Frederick in the attic of his house, and once he got him up there, Almer would lock Frederick in for stretches at a time to keep him focused on the project. It was an extreme way to deal with Frederick's demons, but it worked. It took Frederick Persh 2 years to complete the flora of North America, and the whole time he was racing against Thomas Nuttall, who was working on the same subject back in America. American botanists felt Persh had pulled the rug out from under them when he took the expedition's specimens to England. And this is where Edward Tuckerman enters the story. Somehow Edward learned that the Lewis and Clark specimens that Persh had brought to England were going to auction. It turns out that Ulmer had hung on to all of Frederick's material, including the Lewis and Clark originals. In 1842, after Ulmer died, the Lewis and Clark specimens were up for auction as part of Ulmer's estate. Somehow, Edward realized the value and the important legacy of these specimens and papers. After winning the items, Edward eventually donated all of the material to the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. And today is the birthday of the English-American botanist, nurseryman, landscape gardener, and landscape designer, William Saunders, who was born on this day, December 7th, in 1822. William served as the first horticulturist and superintendent of the experimental gardens at the newly created USDA. During his professional career, William enjoyed many successes, but two stand out above the rest. First, William designed the Soldiers' National Cemetery at Gettysburg. On November 17, 1873, William visited the White House to show President Abraham Lincoln his design for the cemetery near the Gettysburg battlefield. William thoughtfully made sure that the Union Army dead would be organized by state. A devoted botanist, William's beautifully landscaped design was the setting for Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, which was an ode to the fallen soldiers interred there. And William's second major accomplishment was introducing the seedless navel orange to California. After William had received cuttings from a navel tree in Bahia, Brazil, he forwarded the cuttings to a friend named Eliza Tibbets, who had recently settled in a town called Riverside, 55 miles east of Los Angeles. Eliza and her husband Luther planted the navel oranges in their front yard. They watered the trees with their dishwater, and both of the trees flourished. In California, navel oranges are picked from October through the end of May. Navel oranges are known for their sweetness and the sweet little navel on the blossom end. A ripe navel orange should have thin, smooth skin with no soft spots. The orange should feel firm, and the riper the orange, the heavier it should feel. The sweetest time to eat navel oranges is after Thanksgiving. That's when their flavor and color are at their peak. Because navel oranges are seedless, they can only be propagated by cutting. Over the years, Eliza and her husband took so many cuttings of the original two trees that they nearly killed them. In the early 1880s, Eliza and Luther sold enough cuttings at $1 apiece to make over $20,000 a year. That's over $500,000 by today's standards. Ironically, in the 1930s, Brazil's entire navel orange crop was destroyed by disease. In response, the USDA sent cuttings of Tibbets navel oranges to restart Brazil's navel orange orchards. Today, every navel orange grown in the world is descended from the cuttings William Saunders sent Elizabeth Tibbets. And today, one of the Tibbets navel orange trees still stands on the corner of Magnolia and Arlington Avenues in Riverside. The tree has been a protected California historic landmark since 1932. And it was on this day, December 7th, in 1893 that the Phipps Conservatory first opened to the public. A gift from Henry Phipps Jr. to the city of Pittsburgh, Henry was a childhood friend and business partner of Andrew Carnegie. And gardeners who know their garden history probably already know that the Crystal Palace by Joseph Paxton inspired the 14-room glasshouse at the Phipps Conservatory. In 1893, as the Chicago World's Fair ended, the plant material was fortuitously available to the highest bidder, and over 8,000 of those plants ended up on 15 train cars headed east to the Phipps. And that's how the Phipps Conservatory ended up benefiting from impeccable timing, stocking their brand new space with incredible plants for a botanical bargain on a scale never seen before or since. In 2018, the Phipps Conservatory and Botanical Gardens celebrated their 125th anniversary. And today, the Phipps encompasses 15 acres and includes 23 distinct gardens. In Unearthed Words, today's words are an excerpt from a poem called Christmas Eve by the English entomologist and poet Henry Rowland-Brown. There's a sound of a festive morrow. It rings with delight over the snow, dispelling the shadows of sorrow with promise that makes the heart glow. An angel peeps in at the window and smiles as he looketh around and kisses the mistletoe berries that wave over the love-hallowed ground. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The Art of the Garden by Rowland-Brown, North America. This book came out in 2018, and the subtitle is Landscapes, Interiors, Arrangements, and Recipes Inspired by Horticultural Splendors. Established in 1954, Rowland-Brown is an association of the world's finest hoteliers, chefs, and restaurateurs who have set the standard for hospitality excellence. In this book, 15 incredible establishments from Rowland-Brown share their inspiring ideas for seasonal gardening, interior design, and entertaining. These elite hospitality experts share these exclusive, beautifully designed environments, and they don't leave you guessing. The authors show you how to translate their savoir-faire into indoor and outdoor sanctuaries and incredible events at home. Now, the gardens featured in this book range from simple cutting and kitchen gardens to more elaborate formal plantings, including parterres and topiaries. The garden's delights are then brought indoors via botanical prints, textiles, wallpapers, and art, such as metal and porcelain flowers. This resource also shares smart ideas for setting up a festive table using rose petals, garlands, and bud vases. And they even share their secrets for dressing up dishes and cocktails with edible flower garnishes. This book is a must-read for passionate gardeners who long to bring the sparkle and freshness of the outdoors into the home. This book is 240 pages of the finest horticultural havens at 15 top Rowland-Brown locations in North America. You can get a copy of The Art of the Garden by Rowland-Brown, North America, and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $30. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day, December 7th, in 1873, that the American writer Willa Cather was born. Remembered for her novels of frontier life in books like Oh Pioneers and My Antonia, Willa won a Pulitzer for her World War I novel called One of Ours. But today's excerpt is one that will delight the ears of gardeners, and it's from her book, My Antonia. Now, the story's narrator is Antonia's friend, Jim Burden, and he says this excerpt as he's lying on the ground in his grandmother's garden, and the sun is shining down on him. The earth was warm under me, and warm as I crumbled it through my fingers. Queer little red bugs came out and moved in slow squadrons around me. Their backs were polished vermilion with black spots. I kept as still as I could. Nothing happened. I did not expect anything to happen. I was something that lay under the sun and felt it, like the pumpkins. And I did not want to be anything more. I was entirely happy. Perhaps we feel like that when we die and become part of something entire, whether it is sun and air or goodness and knowledge. At any rate, that is happiness, to be dissolved into something complete and great. When it comes to one, it comes as naturally as sleep. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.